So if you were not sure about the anti-Semitism in the UK and maybe you thought, oh, maybe there is not enough anti-Semitism, now we have basically the British hospitals putting out, not the hospitals themselves, but apparently the staff putting out the signs. We'll go read it, but the big part of it was end to Zionism, which of course, this is how they try to hide their anti-Semitism, is to hide it behind the so-called anti-Zionism. And we'll also talk about that. And that was taken down, the post was taken down by the sort of the administration of the hospital after somebody complained, which means it was there for about few weeks, at the very least a week, and most likely a few weeks. And it was only again taken down at even notice because a Jewish patient complained. So if somebody didn't complain, God knows for how long would it be there. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Joining me today is Mark Pellegrino. Thank you for joining me. And Mark, I want to go to the poster itself just so people can see, but any opening thoughts before that?
Well, I mean, I've noticed this anti-Semitic trend going on in the UK for a long time, and it's a bit of a curiosity to me because England used to be a noted cosmopolitan place. London was one of the places that Frederick Douglass visited while he was still a fugitive slave, and he found the country very accepting of him and very accepting of internationality. So the idea that anti-Semitism is becoming so heavily entrenched in the UK is very disturbing to me. Additionally, I remember seeing a few months ago two nurses, I think Muslim nurses in the UK hospital, making a video either for Instagram or TikTok, where they actually said outright that they would not only not treat an Israeli patient, they would attempt to murder him. So you couple this kind of poster that expresses this kind of sentiment with actual people in the street and actual people working in the health industry saying that they will not only not serve is Israeli population or Jewish population, but they'd actively try to hurt them. That's a very scary thing. And I also think about something too, Daniel. I think about Yahya Sinwar. Yahya Sinwar was in prison in Israel for murdering four Palestinian people. Now, this is how Yahya Sinwar made his bones
You mean
in Palestine.
Israeli people?
No, he murdered four Palestinians. As far as I know, he murdered four Palestinians and was put in prison for the murder of Palestinian people because he was torturing and murdering collaborators. I could be wrong, but he was in prison for murder. Let's just put it that way. In prison, they discovered that he had a malignant brain tumor that would have killed him. He was saved by Israeli doctors. They did surgery on him. They removed the tumor. They saved his life. And yet, in a prisoner exchange, when he went back to Gaza, he still planned October 7th. And I just think about the difference in mentality, where a vicious, avowed uh, killer of Jews, Israelis, and Palestinians gets treated on a humane level by doctors who are not judging him by his, as they should be judging him by his behavior, but they're not judging him. They're taking their Hippocratic oath seriously and treating him as a patient. And the fact that this isn't happening in the UK or that there's a threat of this happening in the UK is a very frightening thing to me.
We have a super chat from Regina. Thank you so much. A super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much. So just checking, it looks like, and this is from Wikipedia. Yeah, it was murder of four Palestinians, but also killing and abducting of two Israeli soldiers. So yeah, I was remembering that there were also Israel, but yeah, you're right. It was also four Palestinians who he had suspected of cooperating with Israel. Wikipedia also here has a line that he admitted to strangling one of the victims with his bare hands, suffocating another with a keffiyeh, shooting a third, and choking and punching a fourth. So, yeah,
Nice
definitely.
guy. Nice guy. Freedom fighter to the anti-Zionists and the pro-Palestinian movement.
We have one more super chat from Unusual AI. Thank you so much. So let's look at the poster that was actually in this hospital. So I'll read it out for the people on the podcast. Israel is starving and killing Palestinians in Gaza. Children are being slaughtered beyond measure. We have a voice, they don't. We are the generation that can influence the system and government. Please do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Do not let the mainstream media influence you. It is poison. Zionism is poison. People are being killed just to show the world what is happening. See for yourself. And then they put a couple Instagram pages that I will want to mention. And there's also a few lines at the end that we'll read a bit later. But I mean, I gotta say, I love the do your own research. Zionism is poison. Talk about like poisoning the well. But yeah, I mean, Mark, this is the same kind of. Again, Israel is starving and killing Palestinians in Gaza. Way to like drop context. Yeah, Israel is fighting a war. This is what happens in a war. You try to end it as soon as possible. The only criticism I would have of Israel is not actually trying to finish this war as soon as possible, but trying to do what seemingly they are calling for preventing the deaths of Palestinians. Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, look, it's politically incorrect to say that you need the Palestinians to be as uncomfortable as possible in order for them to understand how toxic their ideology is. The only way they're going to give this up, this ridiculous fake nationalist narrative merged with this religious fanaticism, is to suffer incredible amounts of pain. When they suffer incredible amounts of pain, they will see their philosophy gets them nothing and nowhere. Of course, that's not what they're seeing now because Canada is bending to their will. England is bending to their will. France is bending to their will, and they're seeing that this policy of making the civilians fodder in a war is actually paying off. It's paying political dividends for them. But were they not to see this, and the Palestinians would suffer enough, they would say, "We're done being uncivilized. We're ready now to embrace civil society," which then means they are prepared to embrace individual rights, democratic government, liberty, persuasion, reason, all the things that they rejected when they breached those walls on October 7th. So it's politically incorrect to say they should be in this position, but they should. And unfortunately, they're not. If you look at the UN supply area, where a lot of the food has been dropped off on pallets, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards of pallets of food that have been designated for the Palestinian people that have not been given to the Palestinian people. Now, this is the responsibility of the UN in this particular sector of Gaza, and they are simply not doing it, whether or not they're in the thrall of Hamas or they are afraid to bring this stuff out there for fear that Hamas will murder them and steal it from them and then try to sell it to the hungry Palestinians. I don't know, but I know that the food isn't moving and there's tons of it sitting there waiting to be used. So the Israelis are not doing the right thing, which means ending the war as quickly as possible. They're actually doing the paradoxical thing of trying to support the people who want them dead. How you win a war under those circumstances and do not demoralize yourself in the process, I have no idea. But they're trying to marry those paradoxes unsuccessfully, in my opinion.
Just quickly, somebody I think corrects you and says the nurses were in Australia, and I tried to look up the story, and it looks like Australian police has been
Australian.
looking into
That's
the,
right. Thank you very much
it's
for that
English
correction.
speaking, but yeah, just for correcting. But yeah, I
Even
mean,
worse, even
yeah.
even worse. I mean, just it's there. Is there an area of the globe that isn't infected by this virus of anti-Semitism, and where people aren't paralyzed by the critique of being Islamophobic? I mean, we have to talk about these differing ideologies. What is Islamicism exactly, and what is Zionism exactly? Because people seem to be projecting the values of one onto the other and claiming that it's poison. So I don't know if you guys have clarified what the differences are between these two ideologies. I'm sure you have. You've been talking about this issue for 2 years now, but it needs to be discussed at some point.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly to talk about you mentioned about the distribution of aid. So just so we can cover it, my understanding is that basically there is no problem getting aid into Gaza. There's more than enough from going in and has been for a while. What is the problem is the distribution, specifically because Hamas is embedded in the population. Israel wants to make sure that basically they don't allow Hamas members just to sort of roam around and possibly do something. There have been fights around the areas because Hamas is trying to use every situation. Now, UN is refusing to cooperate with Israel basically because Israel wants to make sure that people affiliated with Hamas are not working on the sites. Now, again, Israel is giving into the premise that it should have a job of basically distributing the aid. So I think it's already losing by giving into the moral standard. But yeah, if you want the reality of it, it's the fact that distributing aid is hard if you are actively have like terrorists embedded in the population and you are refusing to. I mean, again, in some ways, this is on Israel, right? Because it tries to separate the Palestinian population from Hamas, which you can't. You cannot separate the people who have elected. The people who have elected, the people who support, the people who did the crime with Hamas, and try to separate them from Hamas itself, unless they show willingness to reject that ideology, not just to reject Hamas, but to reject the ideology that made Hamas possible. That's the only way when you can start separating Palestinians from Hamas.
So, guys, somebody who we have a website called the Capitalist Corner that relates to our show, the Capitalist Corner, where Michael Leibowitz and I had a very vigorous discussion on the morality of war and what type of morality is involved in war. We had different points of view. We're both objectivists, but we had very different points of view. And our person who runs the website, Persephone, otherwise known as Colleen, she wrote a blog on our article. So if you go to the Capitalist Corner website, you could find that blog on our different approaches to the morality of war. And as objectivists, I think this is a topic that needs to be vigorously discussed. I think many of us think that the moral culpability for the war is always on the aggressor, and that the defender has to end the war by any means necessary. For my friend Michael, this is a form of generalization that should not be applied anywhere at any time because moral standards apply under all circumstances. Now, to me, that creates moral paralysis in an emergency, and emergencies are conditions under which human life is impossible. And the real moral goal of the individuals in the emergency is to end the emergency as quickly as possible. And in the case of the war, to return life to civil society where ethics and morality are possible. So he thinks it's possible to practice ethics, civil ethics within an uncivil framework. I don't think it is possible. I think you have to end the war and establish civil society so that rights, persuasion, reason can then again be established as social normative behavior. That's my opinion. That's his opinion. Look at Persephone's article on it. It's brilliant. I think you may get something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to waging war, I think the goal always has to be to end it as soon as possible and wage it. I think you have to bring in the civilians. I don't think basically you do have to target them. This is what America did by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki, by the Allied bombing of the German cities, by in the American Civil War going into the South and bringing it to the civilians. I don't think you can separate it. I think the bane of the war, or sort of the sort of back of the war, is the population that is supporting this war. As soon or as long as that is there, I don't think you can simply
Well,
like fight
I think,
soldiers and expect at some point it will end.
yeah, I think my friend would say that there are people who are not supporting the war there, but as I said in my argument with him, that's irrelevant. It may be true, but it's irrelevant. And if there are people who are not supporting the regime there, they are praying that the defenders win. They are likely, if they have enough courage, attempting to sabotage the regime from within. But still, if they die in the process, it's the fault of the aggressors. It's not the fault of the defenders. So to me, the nitpicking just causes moral paralysis and winds up perpetuating war. I think the reason there's been no definitive victory in warfare since 1945 is precisely because we've adopted this attempt to sanitize what war is. And we've attempted to bring civility to a condition under which civility is impossible. Now, it's a terrible thing to say that civilized people might have to kill innocent human beings or quote unquote innocent human beings, civilians, and maybe people who are even against the administration who's aggressing. But that is the unfortunate nature of war, and there is likely no other solution until a state of civilization has been reestablished. So I'm sticking to that. That's my perspective. But please read the article. I think it lays out both of our perspectives rather well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not gonna like argue with Michael through with both of us. But you know, I would quote the American President Donald Trump, who has also recently posted, and good thing that I can bring in it. It is very hard, if not impossible, to win a war without attacking an invader's country. It's like a great team in sports that has a fantastic defense, but is not allowed to play offense. There is no chance of winning. It is like that with Ukraine and Russia. Crooked and grossly incompetent Joe Biden would not let Ukraine fight back, only defend. How did that work out? Regardless, this is a war that would have never happened if I were president. Zero chance. Interesting times ahead. President Donald J. Trump.
And yet, how much is he given the Ukrainians right now? And he still thinks Putin holds the cards, and he's still done everything to make Putin win on the diplomatic stage. And now Russia is attacking American companies. So it's like, he's full of shit, basically. He's
Yeah, he
right.
is.
He's
Yeah.
right. I would love the Ukrainians to take the fight straight to Moscow. I'd love them to win back the Donbass, take back the Crimea. I'd love them to do that and to strike the fear of God into this creepy psychopath over there. But with Trump, not going to happen.
Yeah, but with that, let's get back to the main topic. So one thing they've also had there on this poster is a bunch of Instagram profiles that people should follow. One of them was Anas Jamal. People might remember him as the so-called Al Jazeera journalist, and I'm putting it in quotes for people on the podcast, who died, who was killed by IDF. But actually, BBC itself has acknowledged that he used to work for Hamas before October 7. And of course, IDF claimed that he was part of the terrorist cell in Hamas, guided rockets platoon. He was part of Al-Qassam. I think it's Al-Qassam, the Hamas part, Al-Qassam brigades, specifically the, I think, Al-Nukba force, the elite
Why
sort of
isn't this
force.
coming out in the major networks? I want to know because I haven't heard any of this.
Well, yeah, this is the kind. I mean, I'm sure you've never heard of. There is also the spokesperson for Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has said that aid workers working for Gaza Humanitarian Foundation were denied access in Nasser Hospital in Gaza by the Doctors Without Borders, and I think that's another story that pretty much nobody has reported on, even from the negative part, right? It's when something happens to the Palestinians, even if it's just maybe it happened, or we don't have the idea, or nothing is confirmed, or we only have Hamas side of the story that gets immediately published. But when something happens to Israel, we never hear about it pretty much ever. And some failure of that is on Israel, and since again, even us, right? Because Mark, we try to do this thing like wait to have the proper story, wait to actually know what has happened, hear all the sides, and then when we have all the facts, then we try to comment on it with all the truth. This is impossible. What is that quote? I think it's one like big like prominent American author. Is it something like
A
The
lie
truth.
goes around. A lie will go around the world twice before the truth travels once, or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody
Mark
will
Twain
give
is,
us.
I think. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's what I was thinking, and it's
even more.
exactly right.
That's even more true today with social media, where lies go viral and then they become a part of the narrative. And once it's a part of the narrative, it's almost impossible to dislodge it. And there's a blood libel going on right now about 83% of the 83% of the victims within Gaza, of 83% of the 53,000 killed, are actually innocent civilians, because the IDF has only been able to successfully name 8,900 of them, which to me is a phenomenon in and of itself, given the fog of war. The fact that they're almost able to name known terrorists, 8,900 known terrorists, irrespective of all the other unknown ones that are out there who've picked up Kalashnikovs and tried to murder people, or suicide bomb people, or are fighting the IDF. But that has been turned into a major story that has gone around the world 50 times, and now will probably be used by the likes of Dave Smith to try to prove that Israel is a bad country and ought to be expunged from the face of the earth.
Yeah, I think someone commented something like, "Do you think we knew when during the fight with ISIS? Do you think we knew the names of the terrorists we were killing, or had even like a percentage of similar information?" But again, that's Israel giving into the standard, right? Nothing Israel does will ever be good enough, because the only way for Israel to, I mean, we don't even have to suspect it, right? What is anti-Zionism? Or what is, I mean, I can bring in, at the end of this post, it says free Palestine and Zionism, which again, what is that but calling for the destruction of Israel? So this is exactly what it is, right? Nothing Israel does, no amount of aid, no amount of, I mean, anything will be good enough unless Israel gets destroyed, unless Israel disappears, unless Jews get rid they get rid of them. I
Unfortunately, that's true. Jews who can defend themselves don't seem to be popular in the world. I guess people prefer them to be in a subservient position, or in a position where they can be the scapegoat for whatever happens to be wrong with that culture at the time. That's not the case when you have Israel, and it will never be the case, because Israel will not go away. I hope they stop trying to straddle this impossible moral line that the international community is putting them in, and actually get down to business and finish Hamas as quickly as possible. That
uh,
includes killing the leadership in Qatar. That includes going into Qatar and killing the leadership right now. Right now. I mean, I know there's plans in place for that, but it has to happen sooner rather than later.
yeah, and again, to sort of like cover the story a bit more. So the London Hospital Trust, which is sort of like my understanding is like a corporation that is like, because in UK you of course have the NHS, the National Healthcare System, so it's all sort of handled by the government, but still individual hospitals, or sort of like a group of hospitals, are still held by like separate corporations. And so officially they've stated that have apologized for the distress that was caused by this poster, and said that they will try to do better. But again, my question is, why did this have to basically become popular, or sort of it had to be a scandal before something happened, right? It was one Jewish patient spoke out that, okay, I'm in this hospital, and here is like I think she said that she was trying to hide her David's cross, because she was afraid what might happen if people actually found out if she's Jewish. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I have like personal stories of people I know who are not even Jewish, but look Jewish in quotes, have a problem, or sort of people are like calling them out, like yelling at them at the street.
Yeah, it's that. So much for Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Whenever that happens, you know you're hearing a dog whistle for racist anti-Semites.
So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but well, you know
Yeah.
something I'm curious about. Like almost every public building now has surveillance cameras everywhere. You'd think hospitals have surveillance cameras as well. It's in their interest. You think
Well, we're talking
for
about British hospitals.
okay, so maybe because they don't have to worry about insurance issues there, and they don't want to be held liable for any of their incompetence, they don't have cameras there. But I would imagine they would, and if so, have these surveillance cameras been looked at to find out the identity of the person who put these posters up? I mean, come on. I think it's probably a lot easier to solve than they're making it.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I
I think
appreciate the empty apology, but let's find this guy and do something to him.
well, I think they've said that they've said disciplinary actions will be taken. Does this feel like this feels more than just a disciplinary, but of course, state employees impossible to fire, impossible to do anything about. So I wouldn't be surprised if even if they wanted to fire them, it would make it hard. But yeah, they officially stated this disciplinary actions will be taken. No, just a few more things I should mention that this hospital apparently was close to a Jewish neighborhood. So we have this another thing of basically, trying to pick a place that they might actually see it and they might be scared because the goal is, of course, to make you scared, to make them afraid to publicly be Jewish or to sort of show that they are sort of yeah, that they are Jewish, and yeah, basically to make them scared, to make them afraid again for what exactly. Not even it's not like everybody knows that like every single Israeli supports most or at least many Israelis do not support the war. Most Israelis do not even support the war in the way we would want it to see, yet all of them together are culpable for it. Even the ones who don't live in Israel, even the ones who do not have anything to do with, just because they are Jewish, they are seen as an enemy. And well, first, Mark, any comments on that, and then I want to bring sort
Well,
of the
these are the
central
very
thing.
these are the very same people who will say you can't collectively punish the Palestinian people for what Hamas did. First of all, it wasn't just Hamas. Thousands of Palestinian citizens streamed over that border and raped and pillaged people and murdered people too, and took hostages back into Gaza. Palestinian citizens also imprisoned those hostages, had them in their homes, as we now know, tortured them, and were active participants in hiding these people, and still with what is there 20 live prisoners or something like that. There's a 20 dead. This is not all within the
Yeah.
Palestine, the Hamas community that these bodies and these prisoners are being hidden. They're not only underground in tunnels, many of them are, but a lot of them are being guarded by civilian populations. So it's very difficult in this situation, more so than any other war that I can think of, where the militants are embedded so deeply in the population that it's almost impossible to distinguish between the two, and it leaves you morally paralyzed to attempt to do that. So really, in this case, more than any other war, there's really no moral responsibility on the part of the defender to make that distinction. The distinction that they should, the only thing they should do is defend their own people vigorously.
Yeah, and just to bring up sort of like the main thing, and it's this sort of like anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, which again, I would just take anti-Zionism or sort of like being critical of Israel doesn't necessarily have to be anti-Semitic, but oftentimes it is because of the way it is being done. Again, being critical of a state or of a war, I don't think you can have like a rational or legitimate criticism, but I could see sort of, somebody not somebody who doesn't have a fully thought out philosophy or who has a, of course, bad philosophy would be on the other side. But when it comes to when some people are specifically focused on Israel, again, there are other genocides going on or supposed genocides because, now when, it's about the boy who cried wolf. Now when anybody cries genocide, I'm like, well, I don't know. Now I have to look into it because apparently genocide is something we can sometimes just yell and even when we don't
Well,
mean it
no,
or even when it's
it,
not
I
actually
see what
happening.
you're saying, but it has meaning in other places. It's just not being highlighted. It has no meaning in Gaza, where, Gaza, it's a rubber term that just means, anything Israel does is genocidal in nature. That's, I mean, they've so conflated Zionism with this colonialist empire building that it's sort of the way anarchists look at government. It's just inherently evil, and there's no good that can come from it. So arguing with people who are of that mindset is sort of like trying to administer, first aid to the dead. It's just not going to get you anywhere.
So yeah, and with that, Mark, any last thoughts from you, and also where can people find you?
If people want to read about Michael Leibowitz's and my discussion on the ethics in wartime, please go to Capitalist Corner website and check it out. Read the blog there. Persephone writes the blogs. They are usually summations of discussions that we've had on the Capitalist Corner. I think they're very interesting. You can also find me at, you can also go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org and donate to the party, become a member. We are, this August 26th, we are putting up our first candidate for office in Argo, Alabama, for the 5th seat as a councilman there. We think he is going to win. That will be the first office we officially win. We're going local and spreading out. That's our desire. We're not doing what the Libertarian Party did, which is try to go for the presidency right off the bat. We are going small and extending our tentacles into the rest of society. You can find me at Mark R. Pellegrino on Twitter if you want some rather violent discussions about politics. But if you're kind to me, I'm kind to you. I give basically what I get. You can go to Mark Ross Pelly on Instagram if you want jujitsu and dog pictures and cat pictures. And we're going to start a show on the intersection of philosophy and psychology on my Patreon very shortly within the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for that.
And you'll be able to find all of that in the description. With that, thank you, Mark, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective and reality show. Until then, bye-bye.
Peace.